Hey everyone, editing Caitlin here, just chiming in quickly to say that we recorded this a couple weeks ago and some of the sign-up information has changed, especially around the raffle. So if signing up for ClusterCon and getting involved in the raffle and all that sort of thing is something that you're interested in, please refer to the ClusterCon Twitter account for the most up-to-date and accurate information, and that Twitter account will be linked in our show notes. Thank you and enjoy. Welcome to The Problem, a Lockwood and Co podcast. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Alan, and this episode we're going to be talking to some of the people from the Save Lockwood campaign who have put together a little online convention called ClusterCon.
Janice and Zoe, hello. Say something about yourselves. Silence.
I think we were both too shy and too polite to speak over each other.
All right, Janice. Janice first. Tell us something about yourself. How did you get into the Lockwood and Co fandom? What's your favorite book, etc.?
So it was kind of an accident because it was just on my recommended shows on Netflix and it seemed right up my alley, right? I was like, ooh, swords in a modern setting with ghosts? Yes, let's watch this. And then by the end, I was like, okay, well, that was an experience. So immediately I wanted to read the books like right afterwards. So I think I inhaled them all within a week. So like the show books, at least a week or two. And I think in terms of favorite books, I think The Creeping Shadow, because it had some of my favorite moments and like story developments in it.
That's my favorite too. So I understand. I think it's kind of seen as like the most, from polls that I've seen, I think it's most people's favorite.
Informally, from what I've seen, absolutely The Empty Grave is takes the Holy Grail in terms of everyone's favorites. I like just informally, like from what I've seen. Yeah, sorry, Janice, were you done?
Oh yeah.
So I'm Zoe. Lovely to meet you, everyone. I got into the show, I think the way a lot of people did. I was, with family and we were scrolling through Netflix and it was, in the top 10 and saying, recommended for you. And so we clicked on it, we started watching it. I know when I first saw the title, the graphic, the page, whatever you call it, I thought, this is going to be my sincerest apologies to everyone involved because I no longer think this. But when I first saw it, I thought, this is going to be another mediocre adaptation of a mediocre YA novel. And good Lord, was I wrong? I've never been more wrong about anything in my entire life. And that's saying something. But within the first 30 seconds, I was hooked. That first opening banter scene with Lockwood and Lucy, where it's going back and forth. I'm a huge fan of banter. And then, as I got into it, I came to learn it was massively different than any other YA project I've ever seen. Because I know, for instance, in episode 0, you lot were talking about how, it is kind of a crowded genre. The supernatural teen detective genre is kind of a crowded genre, but this one is absolutely a step above the rest because it tackles so many other fascinating issues in a fascinating way that sort of in the books they're hinted at, but in the show they are fully on display. All of these sort of, because it's not just the classic there's a supernatural world that the majority of the population is not aware of, and then these special people have to fight it. It's actually a whole alternative universe where, and how we as a people adapted to this new world order, essentially. So, it's very complex in that way. And I was just completely amazed by the way, like I think you lot have talked about it too, just the way that, the interaction of children versus adults, the sort of child labor element of all of it is really fascinating. So like Jay, I immediately found all the books and became very, just binge read the whole thing, read it in a matter of like 2 weeks and was completely obsessed with it. So that's how I got into it.
Interesting. I don't know why, but I had assumed at least one of you would have read the books first, but everyone came to it through Netflix.
Fascinatingly, most of the people we talk to on a daily basis actually did see the show first, which I know the book had a very wide readership before, but it just wasn't, I don't know if it wasn't quite as loud or if it's
They're
just
not
been a
quite as
while.
into the show, I would say, because there is like another portion of like, I guess, Lock Nation fandom that is mostly primarily centered around the books, and they're a bit less keen on the show. I think because they're worried they're going to get burned. They kind of expected it to be canceled fairly
Yeah.
early on before we had any news. And they're not very invested, I think, because they've been in the space for so long. So like the really exciting part of being part of Lock Nation, you know, meeting new people, inspiring each other to just kind of have discussions, create art, or, you know, come up with events like a ClusterCon. That excitement isn't in the book space as prevalent as it used to be, maybe.
Yeah, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're very,
No, that's fine.
sorry, they're very community focused, I would say, and we're a bit more action focused. But we do have one member who, well, two members actually, of especially the admin team. Lavender, who is a bit of a fandom celebrity, you might know who I'm talking about. Lavender Ghost Co is her handle on Twitter, and she read it from the very first day. She read the books and was interested in them, and she's been operating her account for 10 years. You know, related to Lockwood and Co. So we do have a few members who are there from the very beginning. Most of us, though, we just, you know, we missed out early on. I don't know what happened. It didn't reach us, but yeah.
So like within that really active community that kind of spawned out of the TV show, there came up with this idea that you guys are involved in of ClusterCon. So like, what's the origins of ClusterCon?
All right, I guess that's more a question centered to me since this goes back to the beginning of June when they had the National Film Awards, and being one of the like few kind of local London fans, we wanted to go and support the cast and crew there. So we went over, and then we ended up having this like amazing experience of meeting them and chatting to them, and there was so much like positivity in that meeting. And me and the two other fans who were there kept saying like, wouldn't it be great if everyone else could have like a chance to kind of, you know, have this interaction, because it seemed like there was a mutual interest in that from both our side and like their side. So when I came back to our planning server, which we've been doing a lot of like, you know, Save Lockwood and Co campaigns, like Zoe and I have been there since like day one. I think Zoe and I were having this conversation, weren't we, along with the other admins, that we should do like a fan meet. But the fan meet, you know, there was a lot of moving parts involved. I thought that's not as doable. You'd have to do like agency fees. Not everyone would be able to fly in, and then, you know, you put economics into the question. So we wanted something really accessible and kind of like free for, you know, all the global fans, because the community expands just to every single corner you could imagine. It's actually really, really, really amazing to see. So that's how the virtual convention idea kind of came about. And yeah, it's been quite a journey to get to where we are. But I think it started with that night. We just kind of wanted that experience to be shared with everyone else in the community.
Interesting. And who came up with the name? Or what's the story behind the name?
Many. So there's this scene, I think what was it, in episode 4, where George is like, Toto cluster case, right? And I always thought that was so funny. And it just kind of talks about having way too many visitors in one. Like, well, a virtual convention is kind of like a gathering of visitors, so it would be like a cluster case. So that's how ClusterCon kind of came about. But we were brainstorming in the, you know, kind of like event planning committee, and there were so many ideas. I think I still have all of the names, possible names.
You should absolutely share some of your favorites.
But we had a lot of different names. Oh, okay. Let me open that up, because I think you're going to get a kick out of a few of these. Here we go. Here's the original one. Yep, I still have a lot of these. So we had the Ghostly Gala, which I thought was really cute. We had LockCon, which was also a popular option, but we didn't want to be confused for like the Lock and Key, I think, fandom.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had the visiting, what was it? The Whispering Visitors. We had Ghost Strike Con. We had Type 4s, the virtual visitors. But I think ClusterCon was the one that really, really stuck with all of us. And that's kind of the one we all voted, I think, unanimously to go with.
Yeah, no, it's good. I like the alliteration too.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Wavelength.
Yeah, the alliteration. And I think we also really got a kick out of the idea of us being a cluster of type 3 ghosts, and our panelists had to show up and save the virtual space from us evil ghosts. Like, and that's kind of a gimmick we've stuck with. Like, if you saw, I don't know if you've seen we released the invitation we sent to the panelists, and it was essentially an invitation from Deepak to come and investigate this newfound cluster of ghosts. And we also have that kind of running gimmick as well with one of the absolutely magnificent artists that we work with, Corvaroz is her name on Instagram. She did portraits of us all as type 3 ghosts that are really remarkable.
Oh, they're so cute. I love mine so much.
That's amazing.
Me too.
By the way, she does commissions, so anyone out there listening.
We'll absolutely link that in our show notes.
If you want your very own type 3 ghost portrait, if you've always fancied seeing yourself as a type 3 ghost, this is an opportunity you need to jump on right away.
So it strikes me that we didn't, at the top of the show, ask you, what is ClusterCon? If you want to give an explanation.
Oh yeah, we just want to talk about what it actually is.
Sorry about that.
No, it'll just people in the know. Only people in the know will be able to enjoy this podcast. No, it's going to be a fan-led virtual convention. So it's going to take sort of the structure of a Comic-Con type thing. And there's going to be 3 panels. We have a crew panel that's still sort of getting put together with Oliver Curtis, who's the director of photography. And we have Jonathan Stroud, of course. We have got a book focused panel, and we've got the third panel, which is Complete Fiction Pictures, have their own panel, and that's going to be Rachel Pryor, the executive producer, and Bradley Down, the script editor. So it's going to be conducted through Zoom webinar, which is, essentially we'll have a bunch of attendees, and they'll all just be watching the interviewers and the panelists talk. So it's going to take on that spirit of a Comic-Con that way.
And then there's going to be a kind of rebroadcasting or posterity version of it that will be on YouTube.
Yeah, so we are going to be recording it, first of all, and that recording will be available afterwards on the ClusterCon YouTube channel, but we're also going to be live streaming it as it happens, because we do have like a certain capacity for the webinar itself. But even if there's, overflow, that's not a problem, because we'll be live streaming and it will also be recorded. So, if it's not exactly the most convenient time zone for someone, they can just come in later and have a look.
So like, if they're on the Zoom thing, then you charge each one of those people like 400, 500 pounds, 600 pounds each to be there? Or...
No, it's a completely free event.
Oh my God, Mr. Fairfax would be so disappointed in all of
I know.
We're
not capitalizing on this.
Yeah, that's amazing that the whole thing is kind of like what you described. You get to hang out with the people kind of like you did at that event, and then it exists in posterity on YouTube, also being able to enjoy all of it for free. So that's incredibly cool, I think.
You're making it sound so generous.
I think it is.
That is something we actually went back and forth on a lot, because we thought, obviously having money opens up a lot of avenues for a lot of things, but we really wanted it to be like, we went back and forth for weeks on the best way to make it as accessible as possible for everyone. And obviously the first step of that was making it a free event, in this economy, as we always say.
This economy.
Yeah, and the next step of that was trying to, we don't by any means want it to be anything remotely exclusive. So if people don't end up, inside the webinar, there's still ample opportunity to view the panel interviews in other ways.
That's awesome. So what part, like what guest or what panel or what have you, what are you most excited for?
I think having it actually happen, because it still feels like a very surreal experience for me anyway, because I'm the one who's kind of been the main point of contact, being the quote unquote London local.
Right.
It's still surreal to email these guests or even their like PAs or agents and think this isn't going to happen. At some point, they're going to be like, oh, just kidding. But I don't know. I think if it actually happens, I'll just be really, really happy it happened, and that it actually, It's kind of like when you're with your friends planning a group trip and you never know if it's actually going to happen. And then when it happens, you're like, hey, look at us. We actually did the group trip. That's kind of how it feels like to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, we I would say there's been so much excitement. Obviously, like when we reached out to everyone, our attitude was on the off chance they respond. We're not paying them or anything.
Yeah, we're not paying them.
That usually motivates people. But they were the guests we do have were completely gracious about it, and we're very excited about that. And they honestly seem very excited too. I think they're fans of all the work as well. I think, of Jonathan Stroud's books, of the show, and so much passion that went into the show. I would say I'm very excited to speak with Rachel Pryor just because she's sort of an icon in our community. Like, she was, the rumor is that she, in the very beginning, back in 2013, when the books were released, she actually tried to secure the rights to Lockwood and Co. But they got, snatched up by, I think, Disney. Hyperion Books released the American editions. Sort of the rumor is that she waited 10 years until, roughly, give or take, until the rights became available again. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, that right there just shows incredible passion for this project and is really uplifting for someone who's really invested, for fans who are really invested in this project. So I think that's the interview I'm most excited to see and or be in.
Yeah, I think I'm the most excited for that one also. I just want to know, like, what spoke to her about the books, especially when it was only the first one. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it was actually even, and I might be completely off base with this, but I think it's actually even before the books were officially published. Like, it was when
the manuscript, right?
Yeah, when the manuscript was being sent around was when she was trying to latch onto it. So having someone who was there from the very beginning, who's shown just the best thing about the show is the passion it has for the subject material, I would say, and just the incredible passion and care with which it was put together. So I'm, as like you said, Caitlin, I am very interested in seeing what it was that spoke to her from that first moment.
Awesome.
Yeah, those were like hot times for the YA dystopia back then too, for like being adapted into movies and shows. It's like Divergent series and the Labyrinth or whatever that other one is, that they're in a maze or whatever.
The Maze Runner.
The Maze Runner, yeah, and all that kind of stuff. But I think what's great about Lockwood and Co, or maybe what's depressing, is that it's like those are so alien dystopian, and like Lockwood feels like it could happen in the right, if there was just ghosts, that's how it would be.
Yeah, there's an element of like tragedy and realism to it, which I think struck a chord with a lot of people who, just kind of resonated with the story. But I think what really resonated with me personally was just how it handles grief and the themes of like found family. So I think there's a lot of people in the planning committee or who are very dedicated to saving the show who have experienced like grief in the different forms. And it's interesting that these are the kind of people who have latched onto it, kind of almost like an emotional bond, because it portrays it in such an accurate way. Just kind of it's not something that is obvious or on the face of, and you see this in, the Lockwood character, in the Lucy character, and then they kind of find each other like two lost people, and they have so much crap to deal with, but you kind of really root for them, even though they're just these like normal kids who are way in over their head.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That was very intelligently put.
So what are you hoping that, that like you just want it to happen? I understand that, Janice, but like, what are you hoping that the fans, when they get to experience all this, what are you hoping that they get out of it?
I think the same thing I got out of it when I kind of met them in person is just that sense of maybe like almost childlike wonder. Like I'm a grown woman in my 30s, but I felt like a really giddy teenager, and I was so excited to meet them and kind of thank them for the work that they did. And like if I could just kind of share that feeling with other people, I think that would be great. And I think that would be really great for morale as well in the Lock Nation, because I think people have been feeling really down after the show cancellation, because despite it being such an amazing adaptation, there's factors outside of the quality that were at play that we're not necessarily privy to, of course. But I think that this would be a nice way of just kind of bringing people together and appreciating it together. And also it's our way of like thanking the author and the production team for everything they've done as well. So, instead of everyone feeling kind of sad over cancellation, maybe we can find a silver lining in all of it.
And
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to make that like exclusive to Janice, though. I'm sorry. I'm just like,
no. Janice J, as I call her, is an integral and vital part of this whole process. So I have no problem with that whatsoever. I love listening to J talk as well. So never any objections here. But our biggest job as, admins of the Saving server has been throughout all of this to keep morale up, because that's really all we can do as the fans. We're not in the room, we're not doing the negotiating, we're not taking the calls or anything. What we're doing, our main job is to show our enthusiasm, our excitement. So our main job as, kind of the server admins has been to help people maintain that momentum. And ClusterCon, we think, is going to be a huge part of that. Like, that's why when Jay came to us with it, we were like, we don't know if it's even possible, but this would be an absolutely wonderful opportunity for the whole community to just really not only, give us all a lift, but give us an opportunity to all really enjoy the thing we love together.
It was a big surprise. I'm not in the Discord or anything, so I'm just on Twitter and following things from there. And when it dropped on Twitter, I was like, it was just it was mind blowing. So it's pretty cool for fans who are like, I don't know, in the more casual orbit to see this kind of thing. And then I was like, well, this probably isn't going to include people like me because I'm going to have to like register or something. And then reading the FAQ thread, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like it definitely includes people like me and makes it like extremely accessible. So it was just very exciting and cool.
That actually means a lot to hear, because that was our like mission statement from the very beginning, is just make it as accessible as possible to everyone who wanted to go, or at least like participate in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we are total amateurs in the area of event planning. So that is nice to hear. Or in, Comic-Con type planning or anything. Like we did, it was very small, but we did, release a few teasers, because according to Jay, at least, Jay understands marketing. Like that's a traditional strategy of teasing things. And so that was something that sort of like super fans picked up on, but I'm really glad that it's made its way out to everyone, because every single member of this community is valued, whether, it's something that you spend all day doing or it's something you just, sort of casually enjoy. So I really appreciate that it's managed to reach a wider audience as well.
Awesome. And do you have any plans to make this like a recurring thing?
We would love to have it be like an annual event. That would be amazing, but it really depends on the kind of attendance we get, the interest we get as well. But we're hoping that if it's a success, maybe next year we'll, get other guests that were not able to participate this year. That would be amazing. So you never know. That would be great. Let's see how things go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our sincerest hope that we can keep doing it, but obviously there's a lot of factors involved. So, if that does turn out to be a reality, we'll do whatever we can to make it happen.
Where should people go to sign up for being in the Q&A and asking questions and that sort of thing? And how does that all work?
So first we have the sign up form, which everyone should fill out, because that'll just ask you for the email you want for the webinar link to be sent to. It's on the main Twitter page for ClusterCon 2023. It's on all of our other associated media. So it's on our Instagram, it's on our Tumblr and all of that. So you just click that link. It's a Google form. You can just fill that out. I think we are doing a raffle. Complete Fiction has done us the absolute honor of providing us with some loose set pieces they aren't using anymore. And some of them are really, really cool. So we're going to use those and we're going to raffle those off. Right now, it looks like we will be using the sign-up form, people signing up from the sign-up form. We're going to use a random number generator to do the raffle. And basically we're doing it that way just because that's the people we have contact information for. We just have someone's email there. So we could use that to contact them about the raffle.
So
people on the live.
sorry, just one moment. So even like as somebody, I'm just planning to watch the live stream, but I should still register to be included in this raffle.
Yes.
Great.
And we'll get out more details on that too. But that right now it looks like that's going to be the best way for us to raffle items off. So we are going to encourage everyone, even if you're planning on just watching on the live stream, to do that. And we'll give you more
raffle,
details.
by the way, is going to be amazing. So I definitely highly encourage anyone to sign up for it.
I have a question for me personally, because there is one particular prop that I desperately want. Is there the like you should get a cat propaganda poster?
No,
there isn't.
Incredible.
God, I would
we can't
pay money for that. Anyways, carry on.
Right. Yeah, people can complete that, and if you end up getting a webinar link, I think, and don't want to attend, you can let us know that, and we'll pass it on to the next person. But so that'll be really cool, and then so even if you're planning on watching the live stream, that is an option to go and sign up, just because we're going to be doing the raffle from that page. And then for the Q&A, we really, as we said, we wanted to make this as accessible as possible for everyone. So the Q&A is an opportunity for if you want to speak directly to the guests. So you can go and you can submit a question through the Q&A form. It's a bit more extensive than the sign-up form. And then you can select whether or not, if it's just a question you want answered, then we can ask it for you if you're not interested in appearing on video and audio. But if you want to speak to them directly, that would be your way of signing up to do that. We will obviously go through the questions and select which ones are going to be best, most appropriate, most interesting for the interview. But that would be, if that's an opportunity that appeals to you, then absolutely go and if you have any questions, sign up in the Q&A form. Oh, but really quickly too, before you do the Q&A form, make sure you complete the sign-up form, because that's how we're going to be getting links out.
Awesome. So that was really all the questions we had. But is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, let people know about what was happening?
I'd love to give a few shout outs if I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Just for the ClusterCon planning committee, because obviously I think it's clear just from, the promotional material we've put out so far, but a lot of work has gone into this from a lot of people. So for instance, Jay is our cluster queen, as we called her, because she had the original idea. And, actually, had the, what I always say, exactly, the audacity.
Right, to actually try to make it happen.
Exactly, like fortune favors the bold and all that. And, Jay embodies that every day of her life. And we love that about her. But there's also, the whole linchpin of the thing is, I would say, her name is Ocean Spray on Discord. Her name is Ocean Spray, and on Twitter it's Ifa. But she has been there since the beginning of the Save efforts, but she's also just a complete go-getter, and really is the one who keeps us all on track, checks in on all the various parts and pieces, follows up on the website. She follows up with me about, the Q&A and attendance issues and all that. So I do want to give a shout out to her. Katie as well, Katie Knox on Twitter. And I think she's also Katie Knox on Discord, I think. But
as well,
yeah, she is also just one of those people who just, what needs to be done, I'll do it. And she has put so much into this as well. Let's see, who else? Hannah. Hello Girl Han.
Our head of tech, as we call her, because she's the one doing all the webinar logistics.
Yeah, Hello Girl Han is doing all the webinar logistics, all the tech. She's teaching us who are just completely technologically impaired how to do all of this. And she's put hours into making sure that all the technical aspects of this run smoothly. And then we mentioned Corvaraz, who did all the portraits.
And then Caddy Mist is our graphic designer. And you've probably seen our logo and like a few of our other graphics. That, as well as This Game Is So Nintendo, or Laura as we call her, like they have done an amazing job putting together like the visuals for the convention. So we have those three main like artist, graphic designy people that we owe everything to, because we are absolutely in love with the visuals. I think we had someone ask if we could make a tote bag with the logo, and I'm trying to convince Cadimus to actually do it for us because I think that would be just visually stunning.
I want that tote bag. Yeah,
Right? I would buy it. I would put
I would
so
buy
much
that. Yeah.
but we also have the rest of the admin team, I think, who have been really integral to it. Like, well, we spoke about Lavender Ghost, who's our fandom OG, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But she's been so supportive throughout everything, and she's been tweeting all the hashtags, and she's just getting the word out there, and it's been really, really great.
She's kind of like the one-person fandom welcome committee.
Yeah, exactly. And she's such a sweetheart as well, if you meet her. Then we have Science Fantasy, or Sifa, who's also been there from day one. I think I told her the idea first, and she was the one who was like, do it. And I was like, really? She's like, do it. So yeah, I think we owe her the action of this. But there's so many people in the committee. How many do we have, Zoe? Like 20, 21 people?
Something thereabouts, yeah.
We have like Viv, Gabby, there's Anya, there's Kasia.
Yes, Anya, absolutely. Anya operates the ClusterCon Twitter account, which is no small job. So definitely want to give out a shout out to her as well.
Yeah,
I have a question. Sorry. Because when you were releasing the guest announcements, I feel like there was puzzles that people could figure out. Who came up with the puzzles?
So it was a group think in a lot of ways. We have all a very silly sense of humor. I don't know if you can tell. It's very consistent with the tone of the Lockwood and Co books, I think. So we were like, well, what if, I think someone suggested, it might have been Ocean, I don't remember who, but what if we just did puzzles? So we all sort of think tank puzzles together, but the person who really brought it to the finish line was This Game is Nintendo.
Okay.
This Game is on Nintendo. I've never actually looked closely, but she's also Lockwoody on Twitter and Instagram as well. And she's been doing
amazing edits.
Yeah, she does amazing edits, and she's done all of our graphics from the very beginning. In terms of our weekly hashtag schedule, she does all of those as well
for the Save Lockwood campaign.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. We do for every step of the campaign, and for this ClusterCon event. It's been a group effort in a lot of ways. Like, we all get onto Discord and have long, sometimes week-long conversations about the best way to go about things.
But I also feel like we wouldn't have all come together to organize as well as we did without Kat, who actually made the server and kind of brought it all together. Mm-hmm. So I think she's like the primary kind of like organizer and bringing people together and kind of making it like a real collaborative effort. So it's not like there's a hierarchy between admins or members. Everyone pitches in. So it's kind of like an all hands on deck collaborative community, which I think is really beautiful to see. Everyone just having the same dream and kind of working towards it together is just really, really nice. It might just be for like a fandom thing, but it's one of those things that kind of just warms your heart a bit to see.
Yeah, and I do want to say with ClusterCon, because it is a separate effort from the Save efforts, like we do want to make that clear, but we do think it'll look really good for our community if we can organize in this way. So whoever, has even a fleeting interest of being a part of it, please consider joining us.
Yeah, so you can find their Twitter at ClusterCon 2023.
So we have someone called Spawn of Satan. I know that is their actual screen name. There's so many running jokes on Twitter about their name. But they're putting together an amazing website, which is just almost finished. We're just tweaking out last minute details, but there will be a website. I think by the time this releases, it should already be up, actually. So maybe we'll have a link somewhere.
Do you know where that will be?
It'll definitely, we will link it through all the accounts for sure.
Okay.
Definitely through the ClusterCon account. And that will have all of the information in one place. So all of the information is really being provided on Twitter at the moment, but that will really put it all in one place for everyone to look at.
Okay.
And I'll put links to like all of these people and the websites and all of that stuff in the show notes for the show. So like if you want to follow this stuff or follow these people, you can always just check our show notes, which are always extensive, and be able to click right through.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
So if people wanted to follow you two on the internet, where could they find you? And by the way, everyone should follow Janice because she does amazing Lockwood and Co fan art.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I was going to say, I'm going to jump in here before Jay can, be humble about this. She does absolutely wonderful art, fan art, especially for Lockwood and Co. That will just, it's a feast for the eyes in every way.
One of Janice's arts was, I think it was technically the first one I ever saw, and it has really stuck in my brain. I loved it so much.
Exactly. They stick with you. They're haunting that way. It's very tone appropriate that way.
So I guess just a quick self-plug. It's a J Illustrates, which I think a lot of people pronounce Jillustrates.
I did, absolutely. Thought your name was Jill. It was great.
Happens all the time. I get called Jill on like Twitter all the time. It's, maybe I should just change my name to Jill.
It's not a bad name.
No, it's cute. Yeah. Like Jack and Jill.
Yeah. So Jillustrates?
J Illustrates, yes. Yeah. All together. And that's on, so that would be on Instagram, that would be on Tumblr, and then on Twitter, because J Illustrates was taken, I went with, I had like a throwaway account that I ended up using for Lockwood. So it's just Faye blah blah, which is so random because it was just a throwaway. And now like Georgina Stroud follows me and I'm like, well, I guess this is my name now.
Oof, yeah, the only account I run the Lockwood and Co. Instagram account, but my account that I do for my fan purposes is it's at contained C70049. I also did not do a great job of really thinking about the permanency of that online presence, but that is what it is. If anyone wants to follow me, I am in the know about a lot of the stuff that's going on. If anyone ever has questions too.
So thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been great to talk to new people or different people in the fandom. We talk to each other a lot. And you can follow our show on Twitter at Lockwood Podcast, and you can follow me on Twitter at Inferior Caitlin.
And you can send any of your thoughts that you have about the show to contact@hollowgroundmedia.com or visit our contact page at hollowgroundmedia.com/contact.
And remember to check out ClusterCon.
I hope I didn't ramble too much. I'm a rambler.
No, it makes for great podcasting. That's what all podcasts are, right? Just people rambling.